Hey everybody, I'm Arianna. I'm a senior music and computer science major, and I'm honored to be here today to tell you about my ongoing research project with Dr. Everett, connecting SWOSU to the Open Science Grid. First, some background on the project, starting with the idea of high-throughput computing in academic research. High-throughput computing is the use of networked computers to process data and solve problems that are too large to be solved by our standard desktop computers. These networked computers are utilized in all sorts of ways, such as for data scraping, text analysis, statistical modeling, and more. And not just in the sciences, and humanities research too, for tasks such as mining huge digital libraries. One of the most accessible resources available to us is the Open Science Grid. According to the organization, the Open Science Grid is a national, distributed computing partnership for data-intensive research. OSG for short, it is made up of over 25,000 computers with more than 43,000 cores at over 100 institutions in the United States and Brazil. And the last year, OSG provided over 1.2 billion CPU hours to researchers in the United States, including tens of millions of CPU hours dedicated to COVID-19 research. But the Open Science Grid isn't just a giant warehouse somewhere. It's a network of computers all over the country that talk to each other and share the workload of massive jobs. Here's how it works. A SWOSU researcher submits a job to OSG. That job is then broken down into the smallest computing tasks and distributed among computers in the grid. Once each one is finished processing, the output data is returned to the researcher. Data that would take your laptop weeks to sort through can be processed by the Open Science Grid in just a few hours. This opens the door to SWOSU researchers working to solve more complex problems, and faster too. So, how do we connect SWOSU to the Open Science Grid? It starts with building a virtual machine. Fortunately, we have a computer on site at SWOSU that is perfect for that job. Her name is Brandy. Brandy is a 32-core computer with 376 gigabytes of memory and 21 empty hard drive slots. As you can see, she has a lot of potential. Inside of Brandy, we're building a virtual machine, which will join the Open Science Grid. Right now, we are in the middle of populating our computer with 20 terabytes of disk storage so we can do that. This diagram from Microsoft shows the host machine on the left, the virtual machine on the right, and their shared hardware at the bottom. As you can see, their software and processes are independent of one another, but they are done on the same computer. So Brandy will be the host of this virtual network, which will be allocated a certain amount of Brandy's storage and memory to run OSG jobs. This setup allows Brandy herself to be used for other tasks too, as well as affording us some flexibility down the road. It's important to note that we don't need to connect SWOSU to the Open Science Grid in order to submit jobs on it. All researchers affiliated with U.S. institutions have access to OSG resources. Joining with OSG gives our university researchers priority on job submissions, meaning that they can get their results sooner and faster if we have computing resources connected to the grid. This makes SWOSU a more competitive research institution. Having resources on site will also allow our students and faculty to grow comfortable with asking more complex questions and working to solve even larger problems in their research. Other universities in the region are joining the Open Science Grid too, through a project called GP Argo, funded by the National Science Foundation. According to their grant proposal, GP Argo's mission includes improving campus awareness of advanced computing resources for research and education, increasing the capabilities of those resources, and enabling their deployment and operation to make science more efficient, more trusted, and more reproducible. GP Argo will multiply the number of OSG sites in the Great Plains region by 8, adding up to 44,000 cores to the grid. Connecting SWOSU to the open science grid benefits not only SWOSU researchers, but also students and educators in the Great Plains region and the United States. First, providing resources to OSG makes SWOSU a service provider. This provides evidence to support SWOSU's future grant applications. In addition, as GP Argo has only been funded since July, its progress is still fairly new. There are 17 schools in Oklahoma with equipment similar to ours that will also be joining OSG. Our efforts through this project will be documented as a guide for them to follow as they expand their own computing resources on campus. And finally, by increasing resources through OSG, we are expanding the capabilities of researchers all over the United States. Thank you for watching my presentation. I'm really excited to reply to any comments or questions you might have, and I hope you have a wonderful day.